Tropical Storm Bolaven intensifying as it draws close to Guam. A developing typhoon threat getting closer to the Mariana Islands this evening. As of 10 p.m. this October 9th, it was still a tropical storm but nearly a typhoon now. At 11.7 north, 147.7 degrees east. 70 miles per hour is the current intensity, 984 millibars the pressure, moving west-northwest at 11 miles per hour or 18 kilometers per hour. This information current as of 10 p.m. local time and 9 p.m. Tokyo. So nearly a typhoon and on a strengthening trend, expected to become a strong typhoon later on in the week. The GFS has made that very well known with its forecast, but this is the current position displayed on the map and its wind field, which is still quite small at the moment, but it will expand quite a lot before it gets to the islands and afterwards as well. So there are typhoon warnings in effect for Tinian, Saipan and Rota. It is 362 kilometers from Guam where there's a tropical storm warning and a typhoon watch. Rota 378, Tinian 422, Saipan 433 and Anatahan 558. Typhoon watch for Guam there, it says hurricane, no difference really, it's just a graphic we don't have. And a tropical storm watch for Agrihan, Pagan, Alamagan and Antahan in the Marianas. So 70 miles per hour, storm surge is probably the highest threat at the moment, but there's threats from all angles. Up to 8 feet of inundation expected on Saipan and Tinian and 3 feet on Guam. And the storm is likely to impact some of those areas at high tide. It is of course expected to deliver typhoon conditions to those northern islands and heavy rainfall of up to 10 inches expected, 250 millimeters. Let's take a look at the forecast track then, and this is what we expect in the next 24 hours straight through those islands, possibly a landfall on Saipan and then continuing and then recurving through Wednesday and Thursday, then off towards the northeast, expansion in that wind field, but it does get very lopsided and eventually turns post-tropical probably by the weekend or maybe making it just about to Monday next week. So this storm will be with us for a little while, and there is the wind speed probabilities on the left hand side and its current intensities on the right. 70 miles per hour with decent agreement. JMA actually a little bit higher there, the Japanese Meteorological Agency, 80 miles per hour in their numbers right now. ADT is lagging behind a little bit and the storm doesn't look the best on satellite imagery right now. It did look much better earlier in the morning, but I'm sure it will come back and get stronger. Well, here's the cone from the WFO in Guam, and they're expecting typhoon to pass through just north of Rota actually, and then become a super typhoon between the Northern Mariana Islands and Iwo Jima, and then moving off towards the northeast. A short super typhoon stint on Thursday, and then moving off towards the northeast. So here's the GFS forecast model then. It's calling for a strong storm as well, most likely a category 4, and probably 150 miles per hour, which is the super typhoon threshold, and then it moves off towards the northeast there and continues that recurvature. Let's zoom in on the islands. You can see there the strongest winds will be on the northeastern side, and they'll have more typhoon winds than the west and southern sides. So it is going to be Tinian and Saipan that will get the worst deal out of this storm, I expect, as it moves on through the next 24 to 48 hours. Taking a look at the simulated radar there, you can get a good feel of the storm structure, which gets even better after it passes through the islands. A lot of red hues there on that simulated radar, certainly very high rain rates, which can cause inundation along with that storm surge, and I believe there are flash flood watches in effect for all of the islands at this time. So moving northwards after that, then northeastwards, a pretty clear-cut recurvature there, probably minimal impacts to those Japanese islands to the north. Looking at total rainfall accumulations, this is what the GFS is forecasting. So not huge amounts prior to the islands, and the storm really blows up after that and becomes a rain machine as it moves on towards the north there, away from the islands, thankfully. So the total rainfall accumulations aren't going to be massive, but we are expecting up to 8 inches there on Rota, that's 200 millimeters, and just 1 inch on Iwo Jima in Japan. But certainly in the Mariana Islands we could be looking at isolated amounts up to 10 inches, 250 millimeters. Further north, as the storm really blows up over the center of it, they'll get around 23 inches of rain there, but that is out at sea. Sea surface temperatures are looking good, well ahead of the storm and where it is right now. Minimums of 28 degrees Celsius and probably higher than that, pushing above 30 degrees at times, especially after passing the islands. Once again, the conditions becoming more favourable after the storm passes through the Marianas, and then it will move off and really strengthen and probably reach that Category 4 status that is currently forecasted. Certainly the lion's share of evidence points towards something like that. So let's check the satellite imagery then. There is a little bit of decoupling going on, maybe. Well, what I should say really is that the centre has become slightly exposed there on that imagery, and a big blow up of convection that's just happened, although it's off centre, it's just to the east there. A decent band on that western side, and that will be trawling through the Mariana Islands shortly. Usually we'd be using Force 13 imagery on this, but we're having trouble with the Himawari satellite right now. But usually you can find all of this on the Force 13 website, force13.com/satellite. You can still take a look at the radar on there as well. As we look at a wide shot of this storm really starting to develop there, lots of energy and influence all around it on either side of those channels as it gets closer to those islands. And here finally is that radar imagery from Guam, and you can see lots of rotation approaching the islands, and certainly a little bit of heavy rain on its way there as well, so a few locations will get quite a bit of rainfall overnight.